Chapter 2. Leo? You've been portal chopped, Leo crowed at Prime, smirking in victory right before a large repercussion blast sent both of them flying. Leo crashed down onto one of the large rock formations, skipping over the rough stone like a pebble on a stream. Harsh material scraped against his skin as he flew past, until he finally collided shell first against a boulder. Feeling the cracks Prime had created expand painfully, he shuddered and groaned as he went limp against the surface, unable to do anything but let Prime turn towards him menacingly. You. Prime's eyes were livid as he stepped closer. You've ruined everything. But then, his shouting dissolved into a manic chuckle as his voice went thick with a low, predatory tone. And now, my wrath will be reserved for you alone. A bone-crushing blow was delivered to the side of Leo's face, causing his head to snap painfully to the side and blood to spew from his lips. You think you've won? More punches rained down to punctuate Prime's words, and the metal of his mech suit looked way too large against the small, injured Slider. You wretched little pest! The monster delivered another blow, even harder than all the rest, as Leo cried out in pain. The Slider trembled from his spot on the ground, barely summoning up enough strength to look at the photograph of his family that Casey had given him. He studied all their faces with a tender look, knowing that no matter what happened, they would always be worth it. He was doing this for them, and they would be better off without him, anyway. He smiled at the thought of how his brothers would grow now that the invasion was over. Donnie would probably win a Nobel Prize. Shell, he'd probably win 10 and decorate his lab with them. Mikey would no doubt go on to be a famous artist. That little ball of sunshine was already a walking, talking creative prodigy. He would be all right, and he wouldn't have a sorry excuse of a big brother to badly influence him anymore. Raph would probably be disappointed in him. Sure, but at least he'd take a little depth out of that chasm. One less brother to worry about, and a pitiful mistake off the table. Hopefully he'd be able to get at least a little of the relaxation he deserved. Even April would finish her journalism degree and probably start her own news network somewhere. Casey would be able to experience the life he'd never got to have in the future, and Dad would be rid of his least favorite son, the son who is now where he should have been a long time ago, in purgatory. Wipe that grin off your face, roared Prime, and Leo barely had time to snap out of his reverie before those awful mech claws were slamming down onto his plastron, crumbling the rock underneath him to send him flying through the abyss. Leo hugged the photo of his family close, feeling tears stream down his face as the weight of his failures hit him. I'm sorry, he whispered as he fell to the shadow of his final resting place looming over him. I'm sorry I was never the son or brother you guys wanted me to be. I'm sorry I kept screwing up everything I touched. I'm sorry I disappointed all of you. I'm sorry. And then he crashed against the rock formation and his head lit up with stars. A blurry visage of Krang Prime stepping towards him with malice was the last thing he saw before his world went dark. Leo groaned softly as consciousness slowly returned to him, shifting his weight as he stretched. Almost immediately, he cringed back as he felt sharp pain flood his body. And then he stifled a hiss. But then he froze cautiously and shifted his weight again. What? He was covered in something soft and warm, and could see how bright it was from behind his eyelids. Oh, blessed brightness. But then that meant, I still can't believe you shot him with your tranq gun, Donnie. Mikey's voice finally broke through the haze that was Leo's thoughts, and the Slider thought he might whoop for joy. He forced his eyes open to see his youngest brother arguing with his twin, who was doing some nerd stuff on a heart monitor. Boring. I was only trying to protect Rafala, Angelo, Donnie hissed. And Leo's enthusiasm was stifled for a moment. Was that worry in Donnie's voice? Nardo was going crazy, and I panicked, and he was probably just scared, Mikey defended. And hurt. And I don't know. Who knows what happened to him in there? No kidding. I felt like I went through a cheese grater. Leo spoke up with a yawn. Both Mikey and Donnie whipped around to stare at him like a ghost turned back to life. Leo offered a lopsided grin. Hey, hermanos. Leo! Mikey exclaimed, diving for the gurney. Donnie used both hands to snatch him out of the air by his shell, and Mikey squirmed fruitlessly. Let me go, Dee! Hold it, Angelo. Donnie firmly placed Mikey on the ground beside him before turning to Leo. Nardo, are you okay? Gonna jump at us again? What are you guys yapping about? Leo chuckled. Geez, Dee, who knew your forehead could get any uglier with a raft chasm? Donnie rolled his eyes and let Mikey go. Looks like he's back to normal, Mike. Mikey wasted no time in hopping into the med cart next to Leo with a happy chirp, nuzzling his big brother's side. Leo smiled down and pulled him close. It's good to see you, Mikester. Don't ever do that again, Mikey grumbled from his spot, curled up next to Leo's plastrum. What, pull a hero move? You know that had to happen, and besides, it all turned out fine. Leo ran a hand down Mikey's shell. Speaking of, how did you get me back? Must have been cool, right? Too bad I was as unconscious as a limp noodle. Correction, you were conscious. Donnie crossed his arms. You attacked Raph and were trying to get Mikey next. You were probably just scared. Mikey shot Donnie a glare before nuzzling Leo again. But you were totally freaking out. Seriously? Leo blinked at each of his brothers in turn, but saw no form of jest. He chuckled nervously. Well, this is gonna be super awkward, but I don't remember any of that. Maybe I was sleepwalking or something. Donnie had to trank you. Leo gave a dramatic gasp as a hand flew to his heart. My own flesh and blood? To moi? That is completely unacceptable, Dontron. You're lucky I was asleep. You do not have a history of sleepwalking, Nardo. Donnie pinched the space between his eyes. There is no data to back up your claim. You probably flipped while high on adrenaline and are too stubborn to admit it. I seriously don't remember any of that, Leo smirked. But if that makes you feel better versus having tranked an unconscious zombie, then we can go with that. How are you still this insufferable? Donnie spluttered, and Leo chuckled. What can I say? Must be my unbreakable charm as the face man. Leo framed his face with a flourish of his hands. I always knew I was the prettiest one in the family. Donnie scowled, but there was a hint of relieved fondness in his tone. He quickly turned away, but not before Leo saw the couple of tears shining in his eyes. He chuckled. Aw, did you miss me, 20? Shut up, Donnie muttered, taking a swipe at his eyes before shooting Leo a glare. And never call me that again. I think it suits you, 20. Leo teased before there was a knock at the door, and Raph's worried voice came through. Is Leo awake? He fretted. Can Raph come in now? Yes, Rafala. Donnie nodded. Naira's fine, and we're done setting up the monitors. Hey there, Raph. Leo turned his head to look at Raph, but the sight was like a punch to the gut. Without warning, he doubled over his cot and began to dry heave. Leo! All his brothers exclaimed in unison as they scrambled over each other to get to him. What's happening? Leo gasped as his lungs clenched painfully. His eyes went blank and his brother's questions grew far away. Leo felt his mind was emptying, having a strange sense of watching everything through glass. Nothing felt real. And he felt almost like he wasn't even laying on the cot. Everything was growing fuzzy and distant as alarm bells rung through his head. He could even feel his vision beginning to fade. Leo, answer me, please, Mikey whimpered as he gently shook his brother, whose eyes looked glassy. Nardo, what's happening? Donnie flipped down his goggles and scanned his brother. Vital signs spiked, but other than that, he appears normal. Did Raph do something wrong? Raph whined nervously. I don't understand, Donnie huffed in frustration. He just went haywire. Oh, God. She's snapping out of it. Nardo! Nardo, can you hear me? Nardo! Leo groaned, breathing heavily and blinking his eyes slowly as his brothers watched onwardly. He then froze and slowly lifted his gaze to meet theirs. Donnie's stomach dropped as Leo's eyes sharpened, and he emitted a low, animalistic growl. Oh, no.